Okay, so this is how you do the beginning stages of working a lead with me. So click red bell, you go to the link, so it'll say you have a red bell property reserved. That's great. Um, so you click into this and you click the blue part, which is the link. This link will bring you into Progress Venture Dental's Salesforce account. Actually, wait, that's not it for this one. And you enter the email. I'm Bob, so that's what I enter. Then you enter that. And once you enter the password, it goes into here. You will see that this is a Salesforce account because it says Force at the top. See that? That's how you know you're in Salesforce. Also, it looks like Salesforce. So you scroll down and you'll see a lot of information on the property. And it'll give property detail, this, that, the other. It'll say what submarket it's in, how many square feet, number of bedrooms, and it keeps going. And we will use this sheet throughout the process from trying to identify if a lead is any good all the way to closing. It'll go to HOAs, it'll cover contracts, even if we cancel, escrow, due diligence period, conveyances, our proposals as a broker. And up here, this is even how we can communicate with other people. So if you wanted to communicate with someone, you would just do @ and then you would just like start putting in a person's name. Like if you put in Zach, you just click them, and then you just start saying stuff. Hi, I am making a video. And then I would just hit share or hit enter, and that's how you could talk to a specific person. If you just want to say something general, like a general update on it, you just type, and then you hit share. And then you can also see what else has gone on before. You can see when it was done, when they typed it here. Sometimes this is relevant if it has already been a rejected lead. In this case, it has been. So as you can see, with this lead, we weren't the first one to touch it. Bruno touched it first. And he didn't like it because I went to red bell rejection reasons, and he said it failed the cap rate. So in this scenario, which you would do anyway, is you are going to enter the name under red bell account name. This is your first step, now that we know we're in Salesforce. So let's just assume I just opened this up from here, just because I said a lot of things. So you click this button, and then you start here, remember? And then you scroll down, and then you go to red bell account name. You enter the account name. In this case, it's R. Colopy. So I am Robert Colopy, but I go by Bob. And then you hit save. And then once you hit save, it restarts you. So you scroll down. Now you'll see this. You'll see a link under red bell URL. This link was not here before. You have to have a red bell account name, and you have to have all these permissions in order to get this far. So after you hit save, this is where it is. So you click this button, and then you go into red bell. So as you can see in the workflow here, you went from your email to Salesforce, and now you're in red bell. So now enter your username for red bell, which is different than Salesforce usually, and then you hit the login button. Okay, and this loads red bell. So in red bell, you will see a number of things. First up at the top is property information of the subject property. This is the property we're actually thinking of selling, or I mean buying. And then under here, you could get a little more information. Like red bell, this is kind of like red bell's version of Zillow, where it's like, we think it's worth somewhere around here, which means if it's that much, it's this much per square foot. And then just a bunch of other little information here. And then these summary comments will be filled out when we fill out the lead analyzer. We'll get to the lead analyzer later. I'm still going over the basics of what this is. So down here is all the comparable properties of our subject property. And you can see where all these properties are by scrolling right and basically seeing it. As you can see, they're numbered, and they're colored, and there's a shape. And all these names, colors, numbers, and shapes have different meanings. And you can find out the meanings right here. So if it's a green triangle, like green triangle 10, that means it is a sales comp because it's sold. See how that's a green triangle? Look at my cursor. It's a green triangle. That means it's sold. If it's a green circle, that means it is listed. So it's listed at a certain price, but it didn't sell. And so on and so forth. The more interesting ones, aside from the sold comps, is the like orange scroll looking thing. And that's the ones our client currently owns in the area. And if we zoom in a bit, oh, there's one right next to it. Look at that. That's perfect. So I really like to take a closer look at the ones the client owns on top of the sales comps, just because that shows what their management team and everything is actually getting. That shows how their marketing is producing for them specifically. So it's kind of like, in my opinion, one of the best comps you can get, especially if it's right next door. And if we're lucky, it'll even be the same model match. But we'll get to that in a minute. We'll find that out later. And also, if we're trying to learn a little bit more, this is in map. So if you see up here, there's a map. There's also satellite. So you can see a little bit more. And this is actually important to know, the satellite, because if we're trying to get the first feel of the area, we have to make sure that it's not a geofail. And that's the very first thing we do. And what a geofail is does it geographically fail for whatever reason? So there's a whole list of notes that will correspond to this, but some of the basic geofails is this right on the highway? No, it's just on a little neighborhood street, so that's fine. Is there power lines going through the yard? No, there is not. Is there a pool in the back? Nope. This isn't the only way to find that out, but we can see that there isn't. And is it right next to the front of a Walmart? No, because that would also be a geofail. Is it next to a fire department? That would fail it too. Just a lot of things like that, but that's in the notes, so let's not get too into that. So I scrolled back up to here, and now we want to actually see what our subject property is aside from just the roof, because that's all that map's going to do for you. So you go to this top box here and you hit image. Okay, and you get the front end of this, and where this is sourcing all its information. Red Bell is essentially MLS on steroids. That's what Red Bell does. It takes all the information that MLS has, and it puts it in a more organized manner that fits our needs better. So it allows us to do more deals quickly and hopefully more accurately. So what we do to learn more is two things. So if you remember all the way back, now I'm going to go back a little bit just to remind this before we go in here. This was already, this particular lead was looked at by another agent, okay? And he said it failed the cap rate. So one thing I like to do to just speed things up a little bit is I like to see did the price actually change? Because if he failed it at a certain rate, then the likelihood of us failing it is pretty good too. I mean, that's not the only thing we're going to go. We're not going to go completely off of his word, but it helps you kind of figure out what's going on. So it was listed at $212, and now the price change is $210, which is kind of a waste of time. That didn't really change anything, did it? The agent probably is just trying to bump his listing up higher on the MLS. But we'll still run a basic analysis. Now remember, this tutorial, I'm not going to go all the way into every single little comp and everything. I'm just showing the overview of how these buttons work. So next part is, if you want to look a little more at it, we want to identify, okay, is this agent who is listing this property someone we can actually work with? Because there's a couple agents that work directly with our client, and there's just no reason to do all the underwriting because that agent will do it. So this person is not one of those people, so we can still work on them. So what you do is you check contact information, listing agent, and then in your notes, I will have told you for your specific submarket which agents to just kind of gleam over, because again, they're doing direct deals with the client. No need to underwrite it again. So the next thing I like to do is I click show all photos right here. This will create a new tab. and then you can actually start seeing what's going on here. So very basics of how to look at a property. What's the curb appeal like? This is going to change for every submarket, every subdivision, so keep it relative. I'd say, I believe we're in, where are we? Are we in Santan, Queen Creek? Yeah, we are. So for Queen Creek, it's pretty good. It's got more mature trees, which you see a little less of because in my experience, a lot of stuff there is newer, so it's harder to get mature trees. But don't overthink this. Um, it's not all about trees. So let's go inside. Carpet in the entryway, not good. We'll probably have, in all high traffic areas, we want something like a laminate or a tile, something more hard than a carpet. So there is a good chance, given this, how this lays out, that we rip up all this carpet. And we'll get into that later. And this kitchen, these are cheaper tops for the area. They're not bad, but they're cheaper. And great backsplash. I would actually note that. That's actually not common at all. This is one of the few at this price point that I've seen that has bothered to do that. You know the appliances, if they're black, white, matching, not matching, stainless. The cabinetry, if there's good finishes, if there's good handles on them. You note the flooring in the kitchen. Is it tile? Is it laminate? Is it good quality? Again, that's all subjective to the market. You got to develop that shorthand with with everyone. So, you know, note the kitchen, or I mean the bathroom. I like to note whether there's a washer and dryer, and then we look at and then note if the garage is particularly improved. Note if the shower is particularly improved, or if it's a standard kind of built-in like this. This is a more standard one, which you can just pop in. There's a lot of other little things. I just don't want to get too into it on this video. It's a bare backyard, but it's partially landscaped. There's some minor build outs. It's not just a flat yard, so note that. It's also good to note in the description of the property. In the description, sometimes they'll say new AC, new paint, new things like this. That's actually very important to know because that's going to help with the rehab. It's also good to know if the AC is on the ground or on the roof because it'll change our expenses because you got to get a crane out there if it's on the roof. And it's just more work and there's more liability because someone's on a roof. So that's what this property looks like. I actually don't exit out. A lot of agents do this a little different than me, but this is how I do it. And I'm making the videos. We're doing it my way. So, okay, so now we're back to this, and we actually want to start looking at comps. These are pre-selected comps. See how they're checked? 1, 2, and 3. And we want to compare and see if these are actually good comps, because this is really just like a software program trying to figure out the best idea, but we are never really sure. So what I like to do is you click Photo View, and then from there I like to see, okay, do these actually look like the subject property? Do they not? And I also like to make sure that they're very close by, because let's say let's look at the subject property real quick. So this is what it looks like at the front. And this is the interior. Okay, so just kind of remember what this looks like real quick on the front and the back. So, like, where'd I go? Okay, so let's just say, so these actually are all mildly similar. But let's say our subject property was a 2-story house, like this one or this one. We would actually want comp number 5 and comp number 6. And these would actually be pretty good comps because, well, actually they're closer than these, only by a little bit, but they are closer. They're literally next door. So if our subject property was a 2-story and we were being shown 1-stories, and if the square footage was the same or at least similar, and the beds were bed bath was similar, if the layouts are similar, because as you can see, these are probably cookie cutter. These all, or at least these two look pretty similar. You can kind of imagine that this was probably a master built community. And same thing here. These two look the same with different finishes. So And then if you need a little more information, you know, you can actually click these buttons to go through. If you want, you can hit play and it'll just like auto go. It actually moves pretty quick, which is nice. They probably thought about that with people wanting to just go quickly, but you can dig into that on your own time. So let's just say for these are probably decent enough to work because it usually selects the closest ones as is with the closest layout. And I'm not seeing anything particularly better or worse. These are probably passable. I'd look into this more, but we're keeping it to the video. So let's say I don't like number 2. Okay, we're back in this screen, the main screen. Okay, I see this as the main screen. I know this is the main screen because the triangles are green. Because as you'll see, when I click this button, everything turns yellow. So it's just obvious once you've seen it for a while. So how do you get rid of these? How do you change these out? Like let's say number 2 was a 2-story house and everyone else is 1 story. I click this check mark and I select number 5. Okay, you're not done yet. See how this started flashing? See if I go back? Well, it keeps flashing. So I would click this button and it thinks, and now it's 1, 3, and 5. It was 1, 2, and 3 before. Now it's 1, 3, and 5. And it recalculated everything. And this has actually changed information in your lead analyzer, which we will get to in a minute. So I'm going to change it back because I thought the comps were at least passable for this. Yep, 1, 2, 5. And you click that. Now, one thing to note, which you might get confused on, if you're like, oh, well, I want to do 5. See that? Only 3 in total. So you have to unselect one first, and then you click the one you want. So get rid of the one you don't like, and then add the one you do like. Don't try and add the one you like and then delete, because it'll just confuse it. It won't let you do it. So the next thing I like to bring up is the lead analyzer right here. Now this is the most temperamental sheet I have noticed in regards to just like making life difficult, because it does a few things, which we'll get into. But what can be nice is it will have some of the information populated on it. It won't have list price a lot for whatever reason, even though it all populates from the same place, I thought. But it's either there sometimes or it isn't. And you know, sometimes it's better to be able to see that than to bounce between screens. But anyway, here is the sold comps that we were talking about, 1, 2, and 3. We kept them. And you can see all the basic information: street address, city, subdivision, bed, bath, square feet, garage, pool. You can see this. So what we do next is I like to have this up. I make them different sizes. I made my cursor much bigger, so this is kind of a little wonky for me, but so you already have this up, and so what you do is you go, whenever you have this up, you can have your own flow, but basically you look at these after, well actually, the best way to describe this is this way. Okay, so our lead analyzer is up, and we have this up. This is our subject property. And I like to start typing in the notes. So I'll type in subject, property, and then I'll just start noting things. It says it's completely, like, I'll even go Command F. New AC? Nope, doesn't have any AC. Did you mention paint? Oh, see this? This updated home has new carpeting and paint, and or new carpeting and paint. I guess the appliances stay, or so they think. And then you kind of look over it. So I'm just going to keep it simple for this, and I saw new carpeting and paint. Subject property. So I'll say has great curb appeal, because some don't. Yard is partially built out, but mismanaged. if you remember it. See that? That's not managed well. So I do the outside first, and then I go to the inside, and I'll say basic things. So I'll actually start it with what I saw. It said new carpet, because that's relevant to the rehab, and it said new paint throughout. Actually, they were both throughout, weren't they? So new carpet. Ugh, this giant cursor barely works. And paint. I'm just going quick, so I don't feel like spelling. New carpet and paint throughout, because that's very relevant to the rehab team again. Okay. And then I'll say carpet and entry, because they'll know that could be a problem. And then I'll say laminate in kitchen and eating area. And then I just start kind of pointing things out, like kitchen has cheap tops, appliances, black and matching, has good backsplash. And I note the backsplash because it's not normal. So if there's a notable improvement that you can't kind of just guess, because after a while people see, you're looking at 10, 20, 100 homes a day, you start knowing what sticks out, and the backsplash sticks out, and it might actually be worth something. Okay, and then I would say good tile and bathroom, standard shower and cabinets. And I'd say has average washer dryer. And I like to note that again for my own things, like for negotiation and everything, because if you have like some really nice ones and we know that they're gonna basically move down the street, they'll probably be really happy to find out that they can keep their $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 washer drying set that they've had for years. That's very good news to a lot of people. So I like to know that. Garage is average, so I don't necessarily say much because most garages are average, unless they've been stained and there's a lot of shelving. I just keep it simple. So yeah, that's how most of them look. So now we go into the comps, and because it's a comp, you just kind of note things that are worth more or less in it, right? So let's now go to a comp. And as I'm sure I'll have mentioned in the email and everything, you can go backward in this video at any time if you get lost and just watch me do it again. So let's bring up the comps, right? Get rid of this. And I've probably brought, let's bring up the comps by going to Photo Viewer. Let's see, I do Command F again, or if you're on a PC, you do Control F. But I always do AC up here, as you can see, because if it says new AC, I just see it immediately. Does anyone have a new AC to prove my point here? Oh, see? Brand new HVAC. Whoa. Oh. Anyway, brand new HVAC. So you see how that just sped things up for me? So it seems like no one here has a new AC. So, okay. So I might type in floor. It just has new floor. It's not new. Or maybe new. Type in new. Oh, even new washer dryer stay. See that? New black and stainless appliances. See that? Maybe type in paint. Okay, custom paint. You'll see that later, but sometimes you do want to note custom paint if it's done particularly well. You especially want to note custom paint on the subject property because that paint can sometimes cost more, and your rehab guys want to know that because it changes the price per square foot. So, you know, you just start filling things in like that, and you add it, and you just write a few sentences. Oh, right. So what I do next, that's different. A lot of people just stay in Photo Viewer. I don't. I like to do this so I get a better understanding. This will pop up next to it. So this is Comp 1. I make sure I'm on this tab. And then I go back. Comp 2. There it is. Comp 3. So I can see subject, 1, 2, 3. And I can just bounce. Be like, oh, here's Comp 2. Okay, the front has, you know, some good stuff here. And oh, wait. Hey, look, the front is all laminate. That's actually relevant. What does my front have in the subject property? Oh yeah, carpet. Okay, so that's worth more. But do remember that these comps are more for market, not particularly our use. I would say that laminate is worth more than carpet, so you note that in general. But that's how I like to do that because I can bounce between them easier. Whereas in Photo Viewer, I have to go, okay, okay, okay. Wait, where was it? Where's the bathroom pick? Where is it? Oh, okay. And where's the bathroom pick for the sub? See how much time I'm wasting and I don't remember? So I like to do this after I look at the descriptions. And then I just kind of go through like that. And I know what. Actually, I don't care as I note washer and dryer. It's just a bigger deal in rentals if it's not the subject property. And then, okay, like I'm not going to type these because I'm trying to keep it quick, but I'd be like laminate throughout, common areas, all stainless steel appliances, granite, that might be granite countertops. I believe it is. If I can't see, which I can't, oh, these aren't particularly good photos. I don't think those are real granite though. So I would say if they are granite, not granite. If the shower was built out and not just a move-in, I would say it. This is a well-managed yard, so I note it because that can change the value. If there are different types of roofs, which I forgot to mention, note that because that matters. And things like that. There's probably a few other things I note, but we're just moving through this. And then you just do it again and again and again, and you would be entering all this into Lead Analyzer. So lead 1, this is your comps. And it'd be lead number 2, these are your comps. Lead number 3, these are your comps. Okay, now if we decided to do what we wanted to do before where we said, oh wait, I don't want to do number 2 anymore, I want to go to number 5. Remember that when we were changing out the comps if it wasn't a good fit? Be sure in your notes to not put comp number 2 because yes, it's the second comp on this list up here, but it's not actually comp number 2. It's comp number 5, and it'll have a different number here. Like if we actually used comp 5, that would say comp 5 right there. So make sure you have that. And also, if you decide to use different comps, like you might still have to put like number 5, you have to kind of put a reason why you didn't use the first 3. And one reason could be like had 2 stories. And it could be that simple because you have a model match right next to it that's a 1 story. So why are you using the 2 story? So you'll always enter it differently depending on the situation. So then from the sales comps, also when you're going through, like when you're done with 1, you go up here and you adjust the value of the property. And these adjustments, it's kind of like how much would this property be worth if it was marketed, particularly if it was done right. and if the improvements it had in it are as good as the improvements we will do to our property. So, for example, for comp 1, like let's say we don't like the, this one's pretty built out, at least on the basics. Let's do, nope, that's basically done. Let's just keep it, okay, like see these tops on 3? Let's say granite countertops are really important. And this sold for comp 3, it sold for 210. Well, what would this sell for if it had granite countertops in it, right? Because in ours, we're going to put it in there, or at least our assumption is we will. So, we put in, okay, well, if we're going to put in new granite countertops and maybe put in stainless steel appliances, and, we're going to do this. If we're putting in $1,000 here, $1,000 there, a few grand on the tops. I'm just putting down a number because I don't know how big this is. Let's just call it 6. $6,000, maybe it's more. It'll depend on the community too, right? Because different areas appreciate different speeds. So that's what I would do. And if it was that simple, also if the property is just better than yours, even after you improve it, then you have to go minus 5,000. Like even if we do our standard improvements that our client does to the place, is this comp number 3 still better? Maybe it is. So adjust for that, because once you've done all this, like let's say this went up 3,000 for whatever reason, this went up, I don't know, 10,000, big deal, so much money. See how this had changed the adjusted price of what? So what you'll get is a weighted average after all these 3, and you'll see around what the property, our subject property, would be worth after repairs. Maybe it'll be a little higher, maybe it'll be a little lower in reality. It all depends on a lot of things. You just have to keep these in mind later. But this is going to be your general area of what it'll be worth after fixed up. Okay? So that's how all this, the sales part works. Now for the leasing part, it's almost the exact same gig, at least in the beginning. So you go down here, you just note that it's rentals now, and you just do comp number 1, just like you did before, right? And you're going to write the same things. You are going to note washer and dryer a little more often, because if it has a washer and dryer in it, usually you charge more in rent and things like that. Things that matter in a lease. Like you may not care about what type of roof it is for a lease, because a tenant doesn't care what type of roof it is unless it's got a giant hole in it, right? So let's see. So how do you find out leases? Now we're in the home page. This is the page you get to straight from Salesforce when you click this link. And you know it's the home page again because it's green. These are green. Now click View Rental Analysis. Things up and narrow. See how it's all yellow? This is how you know you're in rentals, aside from the fact that everything else in here is about rentals. List price is now in rental amounts, not sales price. Okay? And it works the same way. There's still photo view. When you click it, it brings up photos. It does distances. It has all this stuff. And look at this. The comps are 2 stories. Look at that. Maybe these aren't very good comps. This is a 1 story, but it's so maybe that's better. This is a 1 story. Maybe that's better. But they have different bedroom counts, which is a big deal. Square footages, they're different. Things like that. You look at those and you start making decisions. I'm not going to go through it all again because you literally do the same thing. 2, 5, calculator, button, button. You check the descriptions, description, AC, 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 paint. Fresh paint inside. Look at that, fresh paint, number 1. Note that. Hey, there's fresh paint in this one because it looks better when it rented, right? That matters. Oh, look, this is one that leased. Remember this guy, the one with the scroll I was talking about? He's right next door. Let's see if it looks like our subject property. Hopefully you remember what the subject looks like. Oh, it kind of doesn't. It's a two-story. So I would take this comp with a grain of salt, but where are we? So they're getting $13.71 in actual rent, which is pretty good because our lead analyzer by itself, before we, also be sure to not click lead analyzer too much because you can have one up that you've already filled out, and then you can literally click this one and it'll come up with a blank one. So don't ever do that. Make sure you are always filling out the same one. So, so 1371, well, at face value, the algorithm thinks this is worth 1288. So, and that might be in the realm because it's I think that one was bigger. Let's see. Yeah, it's a 4-bed, 2-bath, whereas ours is a 3-bed. So that might be kind of close. Sometimes it's totally wrong, but this one might be okay. But also 1288 do most people really rent at 1288? A lot don't. So, normally it's like 1250, things like that. Also things to think about when you put in a price. So that's how you do rental comps. It's the same thing. You just run comps like any other agent would, and you enter it into this, and then you adjust just like you would with the sale. Okay, well this place is still better because it has a pool. So you would subtract $100, even if they're exactly the same, but because it has a pool, you go down $100. Things like that. And that's what you do. Now, then you put in as-is value. The as-is value, I usually put what I want to be in the realm of in order to make the numbers work. So let's just say this one is going for 210, right? So let's just call it 200. I haven't run the numbers yet. This is going to change, but I'm just trying to get through this. As repaired value, we should have gone through it. We should have seen, we got to do the carpet. Normally costs this much a square foot. It probably is going to cost in this realm. But call it like 12 grand for new carpet, new AC, fixing the backyard, new paint, things like, we'll probably keep the appliances because they were black. So proposed offer amount, you just put in what you would want to offer them, right? And then you put in the rental value. The rental value will be the weighted average of these. These won't auto update like the sales did. And what I mean by auto update is these adjusted rents don't change. See how it's still 1195? See adjusted rent and what they got for it. It doesn't just auto change like it does up here, which is really nice. See 213, 223. It just changes. See that? It just did it, which is great. It doesn't do it for rentals, which is annoying. So what you have to do is, even if you don't know the rental amount, just fill out the box. Because look, I'll show you what it does if it doesn't work. So I'm going to hit save. It says unable to save. The following fields are missing. And it'll turn red. Maybe it'll bring you to it. So I just put 1. But check this out. Like if I change my mind, I also don't just put in a number. See if I put, I don't know. So I hit save. It says save successful. You hit OK. You don't hit any other button. You hit OK. And it went away, which is annoying. So now you have to go back and open it. And now the rental amounts have changed. So it was $1288 before, now it's $1297. You could just call that $1300. So if you're confident, if you're in your comps, you say it's $1300. Okay? And then, now that you've done it, you hit save again. Okay? And then it goes away. and then you are back into the green screens. If you see yellow, remember, like how that was up, that's not your main screen because they're yellow. That's your leases. And then when you're done, you hit lock. When you're truly done, I only click this when I've submitted the offer because I might go back and change things again. But now what you want to do is start entering all this information in your lead analyzer and also from your MLS. Okay, so now, and once you're already in this, you should have all these windows up. So you'll log into your MLS, okay, and you'll enter in the address of your subject property. I just go like this, so I don't have to type it. Command C, put it in the search button. It's usually the one at the top. Bam, I'm in. And I start putting in information into the cap sheet. So the cap rate sheet, now we went over this and I think you can open it now, is here. So you know that this is the active cap rate sheet because all the fields are brown. If all the fields are gray, then it's an exported version and you do not put things into that. Put it into the I call mine master cap sheet, so I know what this is. And so I start entering in information. And I enter this information by typing it in. The kind of annoying thing is you just can't copy paste because it could mess up the code. It'll mess up how it looks. It doesn't look good. So I have to go in and jump between screens a lot. So I'll like make my life easier by doing stuff like this, so I can see it all at once. And I'll just start entering information. So I'll put in the street address, put in the city, zip, subdivision, date I made it, year built. This is all stuff you can find on the MLS. Where did the source come from? Did it come from the owner? Was it just flipped? And I hit the drop down. I don't actually type it. There's a lot of drop down buttons. Be like, okay, did it come from the courthouse? Is it a HUD sale? Is it a bank or lender? Was it an REO? Just put that in. And then you're going to start putting in information here. So what was our sales price we thought we could do? Let's bring up the lead analyzer. That's where the lead analyzer is super important. Okay, so we said, and these numbers are junk, but let's just say they're right. Said 200. Okay, so it's 200,000. That's the price. Actually, no. Sorry. Well, yeah, 200,000. Why not? Because you want your worst case scenario of like what you'll buy it for. So your as is value is 200,000. And then you put in your rehab amount, and we did. Oh, look, it's already at 12,000. So as you can see right there, that is our remodel cost. It's 12,000. And notice I'm only filling out the brown boxes. The white boxes are auto-calculated with the little equations up here. You just don't mess with these. Just don't touch them. But you just keep entering in information like this. So list price, what was it? It was like 220. Or no, it was 210. Okay. So, and then market value. Market value is what we thought it would be for as repaired value. Clearly more than 12,000, but oh yeah, I put in the rehab amount. But yeah, so you put in the as repaired value, what it'd be worth, and you would just put that there. I mean, hopefully your market value is bigger than your list because of the assumptions. Now, to fill out this like footprint fit and proximity to employer, see these? We fill these out by going into Salesforce. If you notice, everything was either coming from Red Bell, because it says Red Bell Real Estate, or from MLS. But to find out the progress fit, you simply just go back to Salesforce. You remember this screen? And you go to progress fit, and it just has a number next to it. And then closest to employer. So it's a 3 for progress and a 1 for closeness to employer. So it's 3 and 1, which these were already there. For school score, what we do is we go to another website. And so I make another tab. I type in greatschools.org. And then I take the address. I just copy paste it from MLS because I can do that. And I hit that, so I don't have to type it. And then I do the elementary school, 8, 8, 7. Now, okay, there's no, these are the assigned schools. Typically you have to get the middle school. But basically you're going to take those scores and you're going to go 8, 8, 9. You're just going to put them right here. 8, 8, 9. I think the middle school is actually at 9. It wasn't an assigned school, but whatever. It's a middle school and it was nearby. So I'm sure that's where the kids actually end up going. So I hit save, just so I don't lose that info. And then I take that number, remember how I put in 899 right here in Salesforce? Now it's an 8.67. See that? I take that number and I put it into here, 8.67 on the cap sheet. So what we just did is we went school score, greatschools.org. We put in the numbers in these green circles here. See that? That's where I got the numbers from, if I didn't explain that before. You go here. You go to elementary school score, middle school score, high school score. You put them in. You hit enter. You get your average, and you put it there. Now, you put in the broker name. I'm Bob Colopy. Put in Bob Colopy. And then we start putting in some of our last numbers, our last expenses, which is taxes here and our HOA amount. So let's find out if there's an HOA. And you put the annual amount in. Okay, so HOA is right here, and it's 170 quarterly. So it's 170 times 4, which is 680. You just put in 680, or use a calculator. Do what you need to do. And then you don't worry about the transfer fee for this because we don't pay them. So what about taxes, right? So I go to Monsoon for the Phoenix market, at least. That's what this MLS uses. And then I scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see this chart. And we will look at the tax amounts. And it'll look different in how you do this because this is an active layout. See how it changes? So if I make it bigger, it changes how it looks to 2017. So basically what you're looking at is 2017 final, at least, or the most recent year that was final. And you take the tax amount at the bottom, and it's 1271. And you're going to put that amount right here and ad valorem. So you're going to take 1271, put it right here, and ad valorem for property taxes. So you put in 1271. And then you put the amount right above it, state aid, 179 at non-ad valorem. So you go right there, 179. See that? And I added it. So so we have all our numbers. We're assuming I actually did this and these numbers are any good. And we look down and we go to the rental amount. Now see how this fails cap rate right now? You actually kind of ignore this in general because what a good cap rate is changes by market and what we're doing at the time and everything, but 3.9 is definitely too low. But now we put in the rental amount of what we thought we could get. So if we go back to find out what we thought, oh you jerk. The rental amount was, we put in 1,300. Remember that rental value that we got from here? So 1,300. So we put in 1,300, you hit bam, we're at 4.9%. Which may or may not work. It's kind of on the cusp. At that point, that's when you start negotiating, or I start negotiating and try and get the price lower and stuff like that. So we're almost done. That's all the numbers, but you also need to fill these out. It's always good to double check if there's no pool, okay? And then flood zone. So how do you know if it's in a flood zone quickly? Well, you go back to your MLS monsoon version, the monsoon button, not report button. Hit monsoon. Well, you can do that, but this is better. You just scroll to the bottom and you check FEMA zone. And if it's not A or V, you go to this and you put false. Now, if this said A or V, then you put true. And if it is true, it's over, or we're not buying it. So this is actually one of those things, kind of like, remember I had check which broker does it. You also might want to check this first as well, unless you just know the area isn't, because I mean this video is for Phoenix, so it almost never happens unless it backs up to a canal or something like that. But it's still good to check in the beginning, otherwise you just wasted 20 minutes. So if it's not, keep it false, and then you just have the number of cars that can fit in the garage, which you can check here at the top in red bell. See the property information? Okay. And then once you've done that, you will save this by exporting it. Let's make this a little bigger so this is easier to understand. You're going to now save. Let's just say this works. Like this is, let's just say 4.9 is fine. It kind of isn't, but we're saying it is. So what you're going to do is export. And now you see how you have one with gray boxes? Remember how I said you'll get gray boxes? This is the easiest way to know you've exported it. There's a few other ways, but this is the easy way to know. What you do now is you file, save. I do this PC. And to keep life easy, you can put it on desktop, download, whatever. I put it in my downloads. But you can make extra files and everything. I just have a different setup than most people with how my files work. So make your own form. But basically what you do now is you have to call it cap rate. And then this is totally fake. So the address. Actually, I don't think I can put those symbols in. So cap rate, the address, and then I put export just in case I keep an active file on it. So I know it's an export, but don't put a period. And then put and save as type. So that's your file name, cap rate, you put in the address, export. Save as type, it's not an Excel workbook. You want Excel macro enabled workbook. That's important. Otherwise, the spreadsheet that you're sharing, all those little functions in the background won't work. You kind of just sent them a bunch of numbers on a sheet, and they can't check things and play with the numbers themselves, which is a very good chance they will. So don't do that. Make sure it's Excel macro enabled workbook. And then you will hit save. Okay, now it's saved. I saved it in downloads. And let's just say we like it. So we can move forward. So I click, from here, I click the stage. We're back in Salesforce. You're like, okay, cap rate is 4.9%, and that's fine in this scenario. We are going to hit broker submits proposal because we're submitting a proposal. Now, for you, you actually won't do this. I will do this. You'll just send me these things to me, and then I will approve them. But I'm just trying to help you understand what's going on. I hit this. Well, actually, maybe we don't have to do all that with you. You know, one thing I do want you to do is this. No. Don't worry about it. That is it. Just be sure to save the school score and change the dwelling type to single family. Just so we know. And in Phoenix, we only do single family. And that is fine. So actually, what we might want to do is eventually when we get comfortable enough, we'll do rejections. Like you'll be able to reject things. So actually, I changed my mind. I'm only going to teach you how to reject things. So if it's obviously just really bad, like the cap rate's 3 or something, it's just way off. You hit broker rejected exceeds parameters. Okay? You still have to put in, well, you don't have to put that in. So broker rejected exceeds parameters. And then, see the red bell rejection reasons? Now in this case, the other agent already told you, but in case this wasn't just there, you would click, okay, it failed the cap rate. The cap rate was too low, which is one of the most common reasons why it fails. The other most common reason is geofail. Remember how I was talking about if it was next to a Walmart or something? What you would do is you would hit broker rejected geofail, and then you hit this arrow that brings it over. See how it moved over? These arrows point in the direction you'd be moving it. So you hit geofail, because if you hit this way, it just stays over there, right? Because the arrow is pointing to the left, so it didn't go anywhere. You have to do the arrow pointing to the right to make it move right. You want to move left, you move it left. You do that, and then you hit save. I'm not going to hit save because what I did is fake, even though I think this is a rejection anyway. But yeah, that's good for now. That's the video. Okay, bye.